Now, welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we're going to look at the results of the poll that asked fans how they feel about all roads leading to the sequel trilogy. We'll then, of course, be reading and responding to some of the comments left on the poll. And once again, for Let's Talk Some Star Wars, I will be bringing my wife, Sailor Naboo, in from our other channel together to have an actual discussion in the video. Alright, and now let's get to the results of the poll.
Results of the poll, with recent announcements and such, it's become clear that all roads lead to the sequels or that they're going to be embraced. What comment best describes how you feel? 1% said, I'm absolutely thrilled to see this happening. 4%, I'm pretty excited and or hopeful about this. 17%, I'm more neutral or hope it's good but have my doubts. 39%, I don't like this, but I'll see where it goes and give it a chance. And 38%, I don't like this and will not be watching or giving it a chance.
Alright, and this is once again the point where I will point out that these results are no doubt skewed or biased based on the fact that most of my viewers, or a lot of them, do not like the sequel trilogy, so it's no surprise that 1% are thrilled about this, or only 1% are thrilled. If a channel that was very pro-sequels did the same poll, probably going to get much different results, and the true answer is probably somewhere in the middle. That out of the way, I think the most interesting thing to take away from this is those bottom two results. That they are almost split down the middle when it comes to people who don't like this. You have half willing to give it a chance, half not willing to give it a chance.
I find that interesting as well, because it shows that there's still hope within the hopeless era of the sequels.
It shows that yes and no. It shows half the people still have this shred of, okay, I'm still on board, I'll still give you a chance with this post-sequel stuff. And then the other half is like, nah, I'm not going to watch anything related to the sequels. Alright, but before we discuss this one to death, let's get to some of your comments now. But before any and all of that, just a big thank you to everyone who votes, comments, or watches these videos, or any of our videos across both channels. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who supports this channel over on Patreon. You guys are the best, and you make the Discord exciting. Anyway, let's now get to the top-rated comment, which this time comes to us from Stacy A.
Being a Star Wars fan in the Disney era is a bit like being in an abusive relationship. Eventually you realize that they're not going to change, and if you have any self-respect, you walk away.
Perhaps not the analogy I would use, but it's not a wrong analogy exactly. I mean, not wrong in the sense of that I don't agree with it to some respect.
It's kind of how I feel when I watch Game of Thrones. I feel like I'm just punishing myself.
You mean the later seasons?
Yes. The later seasons, and even House of the Dragon, where watching it becomes painful.
I liked House of the Dragon. Wow, I know you didn't like that. I actually really enjoyed House of the Dragon.
It's not that I didn't like it. I didn't like feeling so depressed and stuff after watching
you didn't like
it.
that you felt like nobody you were really rooting for, I think is your biggest complaint.
Nobody seemed nice or good at all.
Yeah, at least in Game of Thrones, you always felt like there were some people who were genuinely good.
You were generally rooting for the Stark family.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back on point, the thing is people want Star Wars to be good. We stick around because we feel like what if it does become good? It's kind of that thing. And it's not like nothing is good. Andor, in my opinion, was phenomenal. Jedi Survivor right now, which we're going to be doing a review on your channel in the coming days. I absolutely love it. So it's not like nothing is ever good. Like, you keep seeing these good aspects of them, like that partner that you're like, oh, they can be good. They can change. They can do better. But then they come back and they slap you in the face with something bad, like Kenobi or something.
And they can't do that with the movies. The movies are the bread and butter, the staple of Star Wars. So really, when you get those movies and you're like, why were the movies so bad?
Well, that's how we got in this position.
Exactly.
If the sequels had been good, people would have been more lenient. Like, say the sequels had been generally considered really good, everybody in the fan base more or less happy, or if not thrilled, and you have a dud like, say, Kenobi, which I feel is a dud. You might disagree. That's fine. You're going to have people being like, all right, well, they screwed up Kenobi, which is a really bad thing because he's a really important character. But you'd probably find people would be more forgiving of these mistakes now if there hadn't been the big ones with the sequels.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, let's move on.
Next from CMD3, there needs to be an option for it sucks until proven otherwise. Because I won't watch, but I'll give it a chance if, and only if, it turns out to be amazing and people I trust tell me so. That's where I was with Andor. I didn't watch because I thought it'd be the same garbage Disney has been making for years, but then around the prison episodes, everyone I knew was like, no, seriously, this show is freaking incredible.
Yeah, seriously, the show is incredible. If you're someone who is watching this and refuses to watch anything Disney Star Wars, well, I guess that's your choice. But if you're someone still open to watching something, watch Andor.
Oh, yes. I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. I know there are people who find it boring or not Star Wars-like, but I think it is the best written Star Wars probably since The Empire Strikes Back.
It doesn't have the fun and goofy stuff that Star Wars...
No. It has almost
no...
no...
had or that The Mandalorian has. It is a very serious take on a hard time in the galaxy, which is interesting to watch.
I think it's the best Star Wars in a long time. Maybe some of the best ever. It's worth watching, and that's the problem. Like, I loved Andor. I thought Bad Batch was great. Again, Jedi Survivor is good. So you're in that, like, that strange in-between place where you're like, oh, some of the bad stuff is really bad and kind of insulting, but some of the good stuff is really good.
And doesn't insult your intelligence.
No, Andor does not insult your intelligence at all.
Andor is a workout for the brain. It's great.
It is. It's phenomenal. So, but anyway, let's move on to the next comment.
McGee? Originally, the whole idea behind The Mandalorian was that they wouldn't have to explicitly explore the sequel time period. I even remember them saying as much. I wouldn't have had a problem if there were subtle connections. But if everything is going to straight up tie into the sequel trilogy and the return of Palpatine, I don't know why I would bother wasting my time further. Palpatine's return was the worst thing Disney did by far, since it eradicated Anakin Skywalker as the Chosen One and destroyed the story that George Lucas carefully crafted over the course of his 6 movies. If they're going to double down on the erasure of George Lucas's trilogies, then Disney Star Wars is truly dead.
Yeah, bringing back Palpatine was probably the dumbest thing they could have ever done, without setting it up.
Was that always the plan, or was that
No.
Rian Johnson killed my thing, now I have to go and scrap something together?
If you extrapolate what's been said by Abrams and Johnson and everybody behind the scenes, you understand that no. Abrams may say it was always my idea to bring him back, but it wasn't. It clearly was not. And clearly Johnson had no interest in doing anything like that either with Palpatine. But my point is, if you wanted to bring back Palpatine, if that was from the onset, that's what we're going to do, he's going to be our big bad villain because we can't cap off this trilogy without the guy who kind of started it, then you needed to, for one, have Anakin Skywalker be a big part of it. He is the Chosen One. He's the one who defeated Palpatine, and that was the completion of the prophecy and all these things that a lot of fans are, wanting to see held true. So I don't have a problem with bringing back Palpatine as much as I have a problem with it being kind of somehow he's returned in the final film of the trilogy. Anakin says a few words of motivation to Rey at the end, and I mean, you do kind of dishonor what Lucas did with his story.
Right. I mean, I am all the Sith and I am all the Jedi.
Oh, boy. And she was literal about that. I don't know, I might even make a video about that. The Timelines book has discussed that she was like channeling all the Jedi.
She was channeling all of the Jedi through the Force.
Oh, boy, that doesn't make any sense at all. They don't care, though. That's the problem. That's why you want to stop watching, because they don't seem to care about what the lore is. They want to make up their own stupid stuff, or they're too lazy to look into what it should be, and they just give you what they give you.
Wouldn't it have been something cool if when she mouthed off that words and said that she's all the Jedi, if possibly when she was like fighting him toe to toe, the Force ghost of Anakin Skywalker showed up behind her or something, and you could almost see that, like him placing a hand on her, or like triple folds the lightning back, and he still is the one who defeats him,
or something like that.
That's all they would have to do. Just add that into the special editions later. This Force ghost shows up behind. Well, you see him, put his hand on her shoulder.
Or you could have it where, you have Luke do it first. So Luke shows up and he's helping, and then you have Anakin show up. And, I mean, I suppose you could even have Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Qui-Gon can manifest now, apparently, thanks to Kenobi. So, I mean, it might be cheesy, but I actually would think that would be better than saying all the Jedi were there. And have the movie set up the return of Anakin, right? Not just have him like, oh, he's just going to be here. Somehow, don't use that word in Star Wars anymore, but somehow have Anakin be a part of that movie and set up his appearance at the end.
Include some flashbacks along the way of when Rey walks around in the Death Star that's pieces on the...
Hey, that's not a bad idea.
All you have to do is have some flashbacks of Anakin defeating Palpatine.
Have her encounter the Force ghost of Anakin there. Why not?
I think with some fancy editing, they could Band-Aid that part of it.
Oh, it's going to be more than Band-Aid. It's full-on triage here.
But you can't ever say fix. You can say they'll throw a Band-Aid on it.
Yes. They're going to try Band-Aids, but we're going to need more than that. We're going to need a bigger boat. All right, let's move on.
Derek Lopez? It seems perfectly clear to me that they're desperately trying to use The Mandalorian or any other spin-off shows to make the sequel trilogy as relevant as possible, after we were utterly robbed of what could have been a really good trilogy. At this point, they are just asking to fail again.
Yeah, I kind of wish The Mandalorian was just The Mandalorian. I'm torn. Like, I don't mind the idea of trying to make this whole time period bigger and doing something kind of grandiose with it. Yet at the same time, I did like season 1 of The Mandalorian, and I like season 2. I actually like season 1 more than I like 2. I liked it just being the spaghetti western gunslinger going and doing bounty hunter things, and he happens to find this child, and they have adventures together.
I think it's a weird position because I felt like they were leading Mandalorian straight into the sequels with all the clones that kind of look like Snoke in the tube in season 2.
Yeah.
But then the twist of the season, then that wasn't exactly what Gideon was doing. Was that them in a way trying to back off from the sequels? Like, look, you stopped that. It's over and done with. That totally wasn't what was happening.
I don't know.
It's very odd. It's a will they, won't they situation, and it's just a tease, and I don't like it. It's weird.
It has been weird what they've been doing with it. It seems like in some respects you're like, oh, they seem like they don't want to embrace it, and then they bring in like the Praetorian Guards for really no reason. Well, I don't mean like no reason, but could have been pretty much anything, right?
It almost could have been and should have been Gideon, showing off the power of his new suit by taking out Hero Paz.
That actually makes more sense.
That way, when you see Gideon defeated, you're like, oh my gosh, they look at them. They overcame the beast that is Gideon, the beast who took out Paz Vizsla.
Yeah, I actually like that more. Plus, you kind of eliminate that whole weird, like, I'm going to need some Praetorian Guards in the previous episode. Like, you didn't need them. You had your super suit.
Need him. He's got super suit.
All right, next one.
Ted Knight. Honestly, I knew it was all going to connect. I knew Disney would never retcon the sequels, but having these other shows tie into them just rubs salt in that wound. I'd like to forget those embarrassments were ever made, but it seems I won't be permitted to.
Yeah, I think a lot of us deep down knew that the sequels were never going to be retconned.
No, they spent too much money on them to retcon them.
Yeah, and they made an entire Disneyland theme area out of them, and they're making hotels, and not that those are necessarily doing well, but they did all of this around the sequels. It was going to be very hard for them to just say, nope, we're gonna sink them. I didn't think it was impossible. I honestly didn't, but I didn't think it was likely.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the sequels will ever really be gone.
I see what you did there. All right, well, I think that's going to be where we call this. I feel like if we just keep going, a lot of the comments were very, very similar in nature. So if we keep going, I feel like we're just going to kind of be reiterating the same things over and over again. So I'll wrap it up a little sooner, but once again, it's now your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you think of either what we had to say or what all the comments had to say or the results of the poll itself. Whatever the case may be, do leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.